Just to reintroduce myself, I'm Laurent Arzel from Telespazio France. I work at Telespazio, France, and I'm a project leader. And I will share this session about diversification of public warning channels. We will have 3 presentations. The first one from Patrick van der Linden from NL Alerts. No, it's the opposite. First from Vincent from Everbridge, then Patrick. Then we will have a short session for questions. And finally, we will have a presentation from my friend Amélie. And maybe you can start, Vincent.
Thank you, Laurent. Can you hear me okay? Yes. All right. All right. So good morning, everybody. My name is Vincent Geffray, Head of Product Marketing for Everbridge. And in this section of the session, I'm going to be talking about public warning systems, and more importantly, about the challenges for government and public authorities when it comes to designing and improving their system so that it is efficient, it reaches most of the population, but it also takes into consideration the specificities about their population and their country, and is able to evolve over time. So to do that, I'll quickly cover a few information about how we did public warning in the past, what new generation of public warning system have to offer today. We'll then go into the key elements that governments and public authorities need to consider when designing a public warning system or making it evolve. And I'll close up with my 5 key takeaways. Right. All right. So I think it's fair to say that we all know and agree that if we could send a message early on to the population in case of a danger or threat, we would save more lives, right? So based on this idea, last year at COP27, UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres launched a new initiative to provide early warning system for all countries, and especially the least developed countries and the small island states. Now, this looks like it is a new initiative, but at the same time, public warning is not new. Public warning has always been used. The original purpose of public warning was to provide a way to alert people in case of danger or threat in the most efficient and timely manner. Centuries ago, we used smoke signals, starting with basic smoke signals to more sophisticated ones where we were able to communicate information across long distances from stations to station. As you can see, as with the sophistication, they were able to even publish a language and send more complex information. And actually, this is still used today. We still use smoke signals. Think about boats on the ocean in distress. They use distress smoke signals. It's, the red or orange color. In Europe, Middle Age, they even invented alert thresholds for public warning messages, which means the message would be sent to the population only under certain circumstances, right? That's the drought stones, also known as hunger stones, right? Dropped in the bed of rivers, and as you can imagine, when the level of the water was too low, people could read what was written on those stones, right? And most of the time, that was to warn the population about a severe drought, and food shortage and famine. That's public warning. That's using the technology available at the time to communicate important information to the population. Still in the Middle Age, in every town, every village, there was a church, right? Bells were used to warn the population about imminent danger, enemy invasions, and so on and so forth, right? But when bells were not enough to communicate the message to the population, they would use town criers or public speakers, they would read the information of the message to the population, remember at this time, not everyone was able to read, right? So they were using, again, taking into consideration population behavior and the technology that was available to them to convey this important information to the population. Then comes electricity, and with electricity, a lot of new capabilities for communicating important information to the public. Sirens were introduced in the early 1900s, but they became, as you all know, very popular during World War II, especially in Europe, right? To warn the population and civilians about aircraft attacks. They're still being used today, every day in Ukraine. And 2 days ago, I walked up the hill to the castle here in Ljubljana, and they have an installation of new generation sirens with loudspeakers at the top of the hill. So still used today. With electricity came radio and TV, right? In 1953, first time we delivered a public warning message via the television. That was in North America, on the Northeast, during a severe storm that caused flooding and landslides. And since then, it's been used and still being used in many, many countries whenever we want to reach a large audience. So they interrupt the program and display and broadcast the message on radio or TV. Then comes landline telephone, right? 1958. It's the first time we used landline telephones for public warning messages or mass communication. Guess what? Still being used widely today for public warning, for mass notification, for mass communication. After that, emails are still also used as a communication channel today for most of the public warning systems. And then came the mobile networks. For the first time, we were now able to reach out to everyone wherever they might be, provided that they would carry a device with them, right? So we've seen a lot of improvement with the mobile networks through the different generations of networks. Now, what's very important is to see that, or realize that public warning systems have always leveraged those new generation of networks. At EENA, we've talked a lot about cell broadcast and location-based SMS over the few years because of the European directive, and there were a lot of progress made. So I'm not going to spend too much time on this. Another communication channel that is widely used today is the digital signs. So wherever you live, I believe that now public warning messages are displayed on the highway and to warn, again, population about severe weather, tornado warnings, flooding, flash flooding, or we use it a lot, especially in the US, for Amber Alerts, right? Whenever a child is abducted, a missing person, you would see it on all those digital signs. It's also getting into the center of the cities on public furniture, and this is a picture from in the Netherlands, and I guess, Patrick, you're going to cover this in your presentation. All right, social networks. Again, public warning systems are always going to leverage the technology using whatever is available to reach most of the population. And what's coming up next? Big challenge, but also a big opportunity for public warning system to leverage satellite communication. So Laurent and Amélie just had a presentation on this topic, but there are different constellations right now with the ability to provide public warning messages through satellite. I'm thinking of Galileo, of course, but also Starlink and the other constellation like GPS and EUMETSAT have this ability. All right, so that's what's coming next. So, to summarize, public authorities have always looked for ways to warn the population in case of danger or threats. The public warning system have evolved and always leverage any communication channel that was made available. Again, at EENA, we like to talk about cell broadcast and location-based SMS. A lot of countries are not there yet. A lot of least developed countries don't have a 4G network, don't have a 5G network, don't have a population equipped with smartphone. So there are a lot of other communication channels that we need to consider. And one of the great thing in this space is CAP, the Common Alerting Protocol, which allows all the systems to use the same communication language to disseminate the public warning messages. At the same time, while we use CAP out, we see that now countries are trying to get even more proactive in their management of public warning messages and want to get early information of what may happen, what is happening, with direct integration into tsunami alert system, with earthquake alert system. Weather has been done for many, many years. And they also use APIs or CAP to communicate with the public warning system. Amélie is going to deep dive into CAP, so I'm not going to get into more details. Now, what's coming up next? Two-way communication with communities, and it's already happening. It's not only about telling people something bad is happening or is going to happen, it's also getting feedback from the population if people need specific help, if people are disabled and cannot follow the evacuation information, right? So two-way communication with the community is something that populations are asking for. Public warning systems are already leveraging the new technologies such as big data, artificial intelligence, for real-time impact assessment. How many people are impacted in this area? Where are they? Situational awareness to craft evacuation plans much faster, much easier, and to help operators, emergency managers with faster decision-making. So that's what's coming up in terms of next generation of public warning systems, and as you can see, always leveraging existing technology, but also taking into consideration the specificities of the populations. And while those public warning systems get more sophisticated, they can cover more use cases. So it's not only the system that you're going to use when something really bad happens, it is being used for other use cases. I talked about Amber Alert. Yes, missing person. That is used for missing person. It is used for visitor and tourist communication, right? Incident zones, where automatic messages in different languages are being sent to the people. It is used for presidential alerts. It is used for witness reach. Who are the people who were in a specific area at a specific time? It is also used for international alerting. Great use case from the country of Norway. I don't know if we have people from Norway here, where during the COVID-19 pandemic, they were able to reach out to their citizens even when they were abroad in different countries to let them know about the new COVID-19 protocols. So again, public warning system leveraging technology and covering more and more use cases so that we can build more resilient societies. All right, so when it comes to defining a public warning system or improving a current public warning system, it's very important for country public authorities to understand their risk, know your risk. It is very different if you're living in a country like Iceland in North Atlantic with volcano activity than living in Belgium, which is also very different from living in the Netherlands, where most of the country is under the sea level. You are exposed to different risks, therefore, the technology you're going to be using for public warning might be slightly different. Understand the topology, the geography, and the population density. Where is the population? Where do they live? Do they live on the coastal area? Do they live in the mountains? Are they mostly living in the city, in the countryside? Again, these are going to be aspects that are going to be key in providing the right technology for public warning systems. Understand your population demographics. It's very, very important. Think about Spain, Portugal, Greece. They receive a lot of tourists every year, which means one of the requirements for them will be ability to communicate in different languages. If you are France, you have to be ready for the 2024 Olympic Games. Thousands and thousands of people speaking different language will be in the country. Therefore, the system needs to provide multilingual support. Age can also be a criteria for designing your system. When I say age here, I mean older generation, they still use flip phones or feature phones, right? How do I send messages to a population that doesn't have a smartphone? Maybe I need to keep 2G, my 2G network alive so that cell broadcast can work on 2G, right? Assess your existing infrastructure, right? What is available? See how we reuse things we used in the past, right? So don't throw everything away. Leverage what you've got. Legal obligation, privacy, like in Europe, GDPR is something we need to comply with. The European directive is something we need to comply with, right? And last but not least, public education and awareness. We need to take into consideration how the population is dealing with public warning messages. There are a lot of research that have been done, academic research that have been done on how the population behaves when receiving a message, a public warning message, and depending on the type of communication channel that is being used. All right, so with that, I'm just going to share my 5 key takeaways. So first, public warning system implementation is not a one-off project, right? Think about something that's going to evolve over time, and we're going to have a great presentation by Patrick next. Leverage the new technologies, right? Always look for ways to improve the system, and the presentation from Laurent and Amélie about satellite communication is an example of that. There's not one size fits all. If you look, even in Europe, if you look at the countries, they don't choose the same technology, the same platform, and there's a reason for that. It's because of the risk they are facing, the population and other criteria, right? And something very simple to do, learn from other countries. What have they done so I can reuse? What have they done that is similar to our situation, right? And last but not least, communicate, educate the population, raise the awareness so that we build societal resilience. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Patrick.
Thank you, Vincent. So yeah, we follow the plan. So Patrick will present, and then we will have questions, 10-minute session.
Okay, at first, thank you, EENA, for letting share me the story of NL Alert. So back in 2009, the Dutch government was searching for a system next to the sirens, a mass communication system to reach fast a lot of citizens, and that could give a direct and clear perspective on what to do in a crisis or a direct threat. Important for us, it must be a privacy-friendly system. And although not much used at that time, cell broadcast ticked all those boxes for us. I think we were second after the US to implement cell broadcast. So, and now, after 10 years and over 1,100 alerts, an alert is a regularly used tool for our emergency services. And in our case, it's mostly used by the fire brigade. Sorry. Over 80% of our alerts are sent because of smoke with because of fire with lots of smoke or released asbestos. and more common at this time, scattered solar panels. Other examples for alerts are severe weather, gas leaks on New Year's Eve. You don't want to interfere with the fireworks in a gas leak, so that's important. We had some crowd control situations along big football matches. We had a shooter on the run, which the police couldn't find, and an alert is used to keep the people inside. And we also had some situations along the North Sea coast with dangerous currents. People were drowning, and an alert there was used to keep the people out of the sea. Since the beginning, we sent twice a year a national warning, a national test message. And at first, it was mentioned for the citizens to see if their phone was correctly set up for the receival of an alert. But since 2018-19, it's an opt-out system. It's standard on in iOS and Android phones. So you can opt out, but you do not have to opt in. And we use the test message to test our complete infrastructure. Around the test message, we have a survey. A phone panel calls about 3,000 people, and it gives us valuable information. You don't have, with cell broadcast, you don't get any information back on how many people the message receives and what they do, but the survey gives that information for us. So the last 3 years, 85 to 90% of the people received the message within seconds, within several minutes at least. So I think that's a pretty impressive number to reach so many people in so less time, and that's the real positive side of cell broadcast. And over 80% of the people say they act on when they receive a message. An alert has become a trusted and well-known brand in the Netherlands. People appreciate that we have done it and we have implemented. It took some time. It took, say, I got involved with an alert in 2016, and then it was 50-50 around. 50% of the people say, great, and 50% of the people say, no, why is the government doing this? But now it's really is 90 to 10%. Back in 2016, it was only 55-60% of the people receiving the EENA alerts, and the government was thinking, we need to get better and wider receival and visibility of the alerts, and we started a program to see what we can do, what kind of channels we can add to the system to make that visibility better. Sorry. And at that moment, we went from only the personal devices, the phones, to also public devices. And now we have a number of extra distribution channels. We are seen nationwide, everywhere in public transport, everywhere in hospitals and at general services. We also are seen on about 2,000 digital displays, like what Vincent showed. And we have several external apps that connected to the alert system and to share the information to their users. It doesn't seem much, but behind it, there are many networks, brokers, templates, all kind of connections build up. It's not just a plug and play system. The world of digital displays is scattered over a great diversity of bigger and smaller companies, which are also shake up in the Corona times. A lot of those companies got broke or are merged with each other. So it doesn't seem much, but there's a lot of work behind it. But we've looked into more channels, more possibilities to expand our visibility. But the ones here have not or not yet make it because most of the times it's complex to make a connection with those systems, or devices or infrastructure is not location aware, and that's important for us to reach the right people. And also comes back here the privacy things. We've looked into some the smart home devices. Then you really enter people's homes with your message, with devices they bought, they installed themselves, and it's difficult as a government to use those for your message. Next to the continuous search to improve our visibility, we have some other projects running at this moment. The biggest gets the last text. We are renewing our infrastructure because after 10 years in NetAlert, contracts come to an end. We have held a tender and a new supplier is chosen. So we're now in the middle of building a new infrastructure will be live at the end of the summer. Also important for us is the device-based geofencing project. When you use the mobile networks, you're bound to the reach of the antennas and the cells. So what you see here in this is a very simplistic drawing of a warning area selected by the control room operator and the receiver outside on the mobile network. We do not have influences on how operators configure the networks. So it's possible that there are antennas or cells that reach 20 kilometers. And when you have a warning area of just too many people receive the message. With geofencing, your phone decides whether to alarm, whether if he is in the area, the warning area or not. And still you receive the message in the whole area, but your phone decides, hey, I'm in the warning area and I will sound the alarm. So the system will get much more precise. And as another positive thing about that is that we can make smaller warning areas and more precise warning areas. There are situations like maybe terrorism or evacuations when you really want to have a very precise target area. We're also building an own app that gives us just the possibility to reach special target groups like deaf. We can give more information. People can use it to see if there is an alert in the area of where relatives live. And we can add new functionality like what we are look into is a sign interpreter for the deaf, for example. But are we done yet? No, we're not done yet. After that, there are many plans in the back of our minds to make the system even better. Some things come directly from the users of the system, like a silent message. Silent message is also usable in case of terrorism, or sometimes when you have most of our alerts end with an all safe alert. And when the situation is at night, you can use a silent message to say everything is safe and not wake everybody up with the alert alarm in the middle of the night. Language is something we struggle with sometimes, multiple language. At now we use several languages in one alert, but there's also the possibility to use the language settings of the phone to make the alert in the same language as the user settings on the phone. Another project, we are already talking for several years with the German BBK about connecting their mobile system and the alert system, and we're trying to get that working right now for the cross-border connection to share alerts between our systems, and to make it easier for us to couple or to connect more distribution channel. We are thinking of an API that different companies can use our information. And alerts are open data. The information can be shared with everybody. The only thing we keep in mind here is that the message may not be changed, and we like to keep the text body and the look and feel of an alert because we want to use our brands for it. Other projects are we like to connect more digital billboards into our system. Since Corona, we've lost half of it because companies have merged or are gone. There are some opportunities with bigger networks like on gas stations and supermarkets that didn't work out until now because there is some technical complexity with it, but we're looking into it again. The Galileo system is for us a good thing to dive in and to see what it can bring us. So for now we see it as a backup for when our mobile networks are down. Amélie told us through it just before here. And we're looking into the early warning program for all from the UN, and the EU is also running such a program to see whether there is a connection between early warning and public warning. And I think there are situations in the Netherlands we can use that, but it's in a very early stage. We have to work that out further. We only use cell broadcast. We only with one cell broadcast channel for one purpose, but there are many purposes, many different levels, and also Amber Alert is a possibility for us to use with cell broadcast or different tones. A lot of people are complaining about the tones of the loud tone of the warning, but I think it's a warning. You have to be warned. You have to be alert. There's something happening in your neighborhood. So I don't know if we're going to do anything with it, but it's something we have to look at because we get questions from civilians about it. And I think that's about it for my presentation about an alert. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Patrick. We have more or less 5 minutes for any questions. So do we have questions?
Thank you very much. I'm Vanessa Gray from the United Nations, from the ITU, and I'm leading the work on the Early Warning for All initiative from the ITU side. And I'm happy that you you mentioned it. When we talk and we try to get more developing countries to adopt mobile early warning systems, in particular based on cell broadcast and or a location-based SMS. What I wanted to know is you mentioned you only implemented cell broadcast. I guess that means then for all networks, 2G, 3G, and so on. And why the decision not to complement with location-based SMS? I think that would be very interesting.
We have the sirens also. So we have 2 channels with that. And we've never seen any use of location-based SMS because we have a good, reliable mobile network with a good coverage in the Netherlands. And with cell broadcast, we can bring our message. With SMS, we're gonna maybe get to the privacy issue. So that was at first the reason to choose for cell broadcast, even though the SMS functionality is there already for 25 years or so. But everybody knows SMS on New Year's Eve, saying Happy New Year to your friends, and you received a message 4 hours later. We cannot have that with alerting service. That's the main reason for not having SMS.
I have 2 questions, one to Patrick and another to the Everbridge representative. So Patrick, my question is about the cell broadcasting feedback. So basically you said that we know that the major drawback of cell broadcasting is not getting any feedback. Mm-hmm. But you mentioned that you have the
surveys.
There is, you have surveys, and you see that the more and more people receive it. Mm-hmm. Can you maybe a little bit just shape what kind of service, like how do you do that? Is it straight away after sending something? Is it a link? I don't know, just to know. And I will just ask already, I mean, just the second question, okay, so that Geffray could answer afterwards. Can you maybe explain a little bit in some more details what are the artificial intelligence future in PWS and also the chatbots? Just wondering what's going on. Very interested, thank you.
Shall I first? It's a phone panel where people are. They call people with a set of questions from when did you receive the message, when did you receive it, have you seen the message also outside on the other distribution channels, what do you think of it, what do you think of the sound? I can, if you want. I can send you, but it's in Dutch. I can translate it, the main parts, so I can share it with you. Yeah. And I'm also interested in Vincent answered.
All right. So very quick because Amélie is going next. Artificial intelligence and mainly machine learning algorithms are being used right now to help get better at predicting the unpredictable. You know that we're struggling with an earthquake we are struggling with some of the unpredictable risks. So machine learning is helping us looking at volcano activity, looking at tectonic plate activity to get better at building those models and anticipate, even if it's a matter of minutes. If we are able to send for example, a cell broadcast communication to the population on the coastal areas of a country, in case of a earthquake or tsunami, we can save more lives. So there's a lot of work being done here. There's a lot of work being done for emergency management and AI models. We also, I know that some companies are working on models to help operators when it comes to what channel to use. You know, when something really bad happens, we don't have time to think through. It's very easy here to talk about what we would do in case of an emergency, right? So helping operators with the recommendation, right? So a lot of work is being done on predictive analytics and recommendation. Chatbots is an example. So there's chatbot being developed for the population, so they can get more information about the message they just received, about an incident that is happening. They can ask questions to the chatbot to, for example, give more details about the evacuation plan, to give more detail about what I should be doing. If it's a predictable event, like a hurricane, a cyclone, give me more information about where are the shelters, where can I get help. I'm disabled and I need special assistance. That's what the chatbot is going to do and is doing, because I know some projects are mature enough today to help population. But there's also chatbot for the operators, again, to help them decide what channel should I display the message on the digital signage, through cell broadcast. If I have an hybrid implementation with location-based SMS, which one? Should I use both? Or should I use satellite communication? When? Because depending on the nature of the incident, you might consider sending a cell broadcast versus a location-based SMS. If it's a COVID-19 protocol information that you want to share, maybe a location-based SMS is enough, right? Because it's not urgent. So helping operators, emergency managers, public authorities with the choice of the channel, helping in early detection of unpredictable risks, and helping population with more information about what is happening or what is about to happen is what the new technology is going to help with, along with situational awareness, and there's a great session after that on situational awareness. Did I answer your question?
Okay, thank you very much, Patrick and Vincent. Now we can move to... We can move to the presentation about CAP.
Thank you, Laurent. Do you hear me well? Yeah? Okay. So this session, we have talked a lot about the different channels, their application. We had a very practical example with an alert. The common point between all this channel is the common alerting protocol. So it's within what happens within all these channels, so it's a little bit less practical than what you have seen, but since it's very important, and that's best practice to promote for enabling such efficient public warning systems. So here I'm talking as an ITU consultant, so the International Telecommunication Union. And before jumping into what is a common alerting protocol, I would like to briefly introduce the ITU. So the ITU is the International Telecommunication Union. It's a specialized United Nations agencies for everything which is information and communication technologies. So here you have three sectors: the standardizations, the radio communications, and the developments. So here we talk a lot from the start about standardizations, the frequencies or the different things, spectrum that we can that ITU can attribute also in terms of satellites communication. But what we are going to go deep inside today is the development sector, because the idea is to develop public warning systems where there is nothing. So just few words also, we have 190 193 member states and several companies, universities that help us building a network of experts that can help you if you don't have a public warning system to build up your alerting strategy. So here, what we are going to focus on is the emergency telecommunication and disaster management. Because you all know that in case of a disaster, you rely a lot about telecommunication. Before, of course, for monitoring the environments, all these sensors that could trigger an alert, such as Vincent has said about the tsunami alert, for instance, but also during a disaster for coordinating all the important operations of emergencies. And the ITU is also providing equipment to make sure that these people get access to the telecommunication network even when it's damaged. The ITU is a really key actor for the early warning for all initiative. I'm going to talk a little bit about that, but tomorrow you have a huge presentation in details about it by Vanessa. So tomorrow morning I invite you to join to this presentation about early warning for all. But I just wanted to share a small survey made by WMO, so the World Meteorological Organization. They have consulted their states members, and only half of them have reported to have a multi-hazard emergency warning system. So we still have a lot of path to cover for reaching this United Nations call. So this call, in few words, is to ensure, the United call, is to ensure that within the next 5 years, everyone on Earth should be protected by an early warning system. So this covers 4th pillar, that as you can see, of course. So the first pillar is disaster risk knowledge. The second one is, of course, doing all this observation and forecasting. Vincent has just mentioned the artificial intelligence, and this is really used in this second pillar. The third pillar is reaching people. So the first pillar is really, do you need to issue an alert? Yes. And then you need to send it, and that's the third pillar. The fourth pillar that we don't talk too much, but which is really, really important, concerns the community. Because, of course, you need to prepare the community and to prepare the answer. So here, this presentation focuses only on the third pillar, but it's really important to keep in mind that a multi-hazard emergency warning system also covers the other pillar. So why ITU? We think that the global digital transformations offer really new opportunity to have an efficient multi-hazard emergency warning system, because 95% of the world population is covered by mobile broadband network. We think that it's a huge channel to use for reaching the population. So concretely, what ITU is doing is to work on action plan for reaching this target for just the pillar 3 by promoting regulatory approach, engages with mobile network operators, but mainly identifying and share best practices. And the Common Alerting Protocol is one of them, so that's why we are going to focus on this one. So when we talk about public warning system, it's probably the message you have seen in all the presentations, right? It's to alert everyone, everywhere. So the multi-channel approach is the key. So I'm not going to dive into every one of these channels because you have seen the practical example just before in an alert or in the different presentations. However, it's important to always keep in mind that one channel may fall. And so this multi-channel is very important. But because you arrive to a lot of different channels to manage on the same place, it's important to have a coherency between all of your channels, because your population will receive multiple information from these different channels, and all of them must carry the same message. So this is via the common alerting protocols that you can do that to ensure this coherency. And the common alerting protocol is also an increasing opportunity to add easily new channels with private initiatives. You see that, and we have talked before about digital signage. Here also, so it's in Belgium, it's a shopping center where you display rather of the classical advertising of the shopping center, an alert. This is broadcasted by CAP as well. So it enables private initiative. insurance application. Maybe they want to warn their insurers about risk. So all this private initiative can be done only if you are talking always about the same language, and this is the common alerting protocol. This is also interesting to use the common alerting protocol in all of these channels to create a CAP alerts hub that can rebroadcast around the world what is happening. So this is, for instance, the case of the alerthub.org. If you don't know this website, it's important to go there. It gives you an idea of the number of countries with at least one operational CAP feed that you can read outside to know what is happening in these countries. So you know that we have here 184 sources of CAP that are published by 188 countries. So it's already widely used, so that's why it's really important when you create a new public warning system, when you think about a new channel, to use this common alerting protocol as a common language. Because, of course, everyone can publish a CAP, it's important to to document the credibility. So we have said during this satellites presentation before that you have a certain fixed number of alerting authorities. Here it's the same. The ITU and the World Meteorological Organization have established an official international register of alerting authority to make sure that when a CAP is published, it's published by someone you can trust. So if you are an authority and you have a CAP, you can totally register and declare yourself on this website to make sure that when you publish on internet, you are trusted. If I go a little bit more technical, what is CAP? CAP is an international standard, so it's initiated by the ITU. You have the old version here in 2007, just for your information. The version that everyone uses now is this a second version, so it's just for the information. And what ITU is doing here is to promote CAP via regional and national training. So if you have any needs of CAP training, you can reach Vanessa, she is here, to plan such kind of training. And the idea is to really promote this CAP use into the executive action plan for the Early Warning System for All initiative. So all the stakeholders' engagements are made around CAP in this third pillar of this call. Trying to go a little bit more technical, but not too much for certain people. What is a CAP? How do you edit it, and how do you validate it? So here you have a website, it's capalert.org. If you don't have a CAP editor on your side, this is a free one. You can totally start to test it if you don't have a CAP feed on your country. You just fulfill all the fields and it will create a valid common alerting protocol. If you already have a common alerting protocol editor or you think you have it, the best way to know is to copy-paste your potential CAP here, your XML file, and it will tell you in the screen on your right whether it's valid or not. Because you will see in the next slides, a lot of people take specificities within the use of this CAP, and specificities are totally enabled as long as when you copy-paste your CAP here, it's valid. So if you're not a technical guy, what is a CAP? It's a CAP which says it's a file, when you copy-paste here on this website, it's said valid. Otherwise, you have a diversion from the international standard. Once this is said, if you go a little bit deeper again, you'll see that I'm trying to make a technical protocol quite easy to understand. You have below four little lines which are different profiles. You can read maybe IPOS. This is the American public warning system. You can read the Canadian profile as well. You can read the Australian profile. You can read the Google Public Alert. What does it mean? CAP is a standard, but some of the countries have developed their specificities to make sure that it's correctly displayed. You remember in the NL alert presentation from Patrick, he said, okay, we open this channel to other providers, such as the digital billboard or other things, other channels, but we want to make sure it has the same look and feel than an official alert that I provide. So this is exactly what it is about. So which structure of a cap and where do you have specificities per country? So starting to go slowly within the code itself. So it's an XML file made of 4 blocks. So you have all this information on the international standard page before, but I'm trying to make it like more visual. So it's it's made of 4 blocks. The first block is about the alert itself. So meaning what is the sender, what is the alert status, sorry, the alert unique ID, whether it's an alert, an update, an exercise, everything which concerns the alert itself, okay? The most important, so usually here there's no differences between the different countries, so it's quite common. Per alert, you may have multiple info block, okay? Within each info block, you have single informations. You have only 1 language per info block. You have 1 event category. So the event category is an international standard, is defined by the international standard, so you will have no deviation here. But the event type behind the category, here it can be defined differently per country. So that's a first thing to take care when you consider an interoperability between countries. So we have heard about this compatibility between NL alerts and the MOVAS things. It's the first obstacle is maybe the event type. Then you define in this info block everything which is urgency, severity, certainty, because of course we must provide for an efficient alert this key information. You won't react the same way if it's going to happen in 5 minutes, if it's right now, or if it's going to happen, if it's a vigilance message actually. Expiration time. Expiration time is also a very interesting thing. You may have seen in Vincent's presentation in one digital signal. It was written hurricane alert until 5:30 p.m. It enables you to coordinate your life and to make sure this alert is valid until this time. So it's really important. And you got headline, the event description, and the instruction. So headline and event description is really interesting when you have more information about the event. It helps to give you credibility. Something very important and to not forget is instruction. Because of course it's good to send an alert. The most important is to say what to do with this alert. So there are differences between all those different CAP profiles that you have seen between all these different countries. However, it's important that it's homogeneous within one country. Per info block, you have the resources. That's where you can add pictures. For instance, if you want to send a picture of the missing child for Amber alerts. And you have areas. Areas as well, the area block, contains the area description, but also coordinates polygons and sometimes the use of zip codes or of codes for the area. This is again, a point of differences between countries because all the countries doesn't use the same codes. So you see, we have a common alerting protocol, which is an international standard, but within each country, it's important to settle your own specificities to match your local specificities to make sure that it covers your needs. Once you have settled the national CAP feed, what can it help you with? We have heard from the start about this multi-channel CAP in, I would say, because you have different sensors, you have different national alerting authorities, the tsunami warnings, for instance, or everything which is earthquake, everything which is flood warning, everything of them comes from different national authorities. And if you have the same CAP, so if you have defined your national CAP, you are able to gather all this CAP into one country alert hub, which is managed by the country itself, with management of users, rights, authorization, because it's important to make sure that only real alerts are published. And then it gives you the CAP out to the different channels. From the start in this presentation, we said it's important to multiply different channels. I wanted to give you the example of few countries such as the United States, also Austria, Canada, sorry. These are the people who has created in this Google validator web page different profiles. Why so? Because they rely on private initiative. So they have a kind of certification which enable all the alerting authorities with different sensors to issue the alerts with their own business needs, but always compliant to the cap that is needed within this country alert distribution hub. And you have also a certification about the last miles alert broadcasters, because it means that you guarantee an homogeneous quality of service via the use of this same common alerting protocol file. So what's next? I hope you have well understood the interest of this common alerting protocol. We have written with the ITU a background paper on public emergency warning systems, so I invite you to download it and send us some comments. We are also working on technical tenders biblioteca to make it available for countries who doesn't have yet a public warning system, so that you can get inspired of that. We are also working on collecting the legislations of the different countries. So if I'm going to meet you personally after this session, and I'm really interested to collect your local legislation on public warning system to make it available for countries who doesn't have it yet, so that they can be inspired. And of course, we keep promoting best practices and integrate the use of CAP, particularly in the GSR 23, which is the Global Symposium Regulator in June. And we are happy to collect all expertise to help these countries who doesn't have yet the multi-hazard emergency warning system. The really next step is to come tomorrow at the Friday session of the ITU on the Early Warning System for All initiative. And then I would like to thank you very much for your attention about CAP.